Virtual tabletops. They have become a theme for the last year and a half as role-playing game enthusiasts have needed a way to connect over long distances. And so, without the option of playing in person, for a lot of us, virtual tabletops are the way to go. I have been using Roll20 for the last 2.5 years. Great platform. And just recently, they came out with a brand new virtual tabletop, and I say brand new because compared to Roll20, it is brand new, and that's Foundry Virtual Tabletop. It's got a lot of pluses. It's got some not so pluses, but for me, the pluses outweighed the minuses, and I switched over the last month. I'm going to show you right now how I have used some of the add-ons or modules for Foundry VTT to integrate Scabard RPG Campaign Manager, which is where I keep my lore, and put them straight into my game. So I'm not finding myself going after link to find what I need for my games, and also giving my players an enormous resource of the entirety of the lore of my campaign right during our Friday night games. Thanks for joining us. This is GM Vault. And it has been a while since my last video, mainly because I have been completely immersed in rebuilding my entire campaign that I've been running through Roll20 into Foundry VTT. Now, there's plenty of videos out there talking about the differences between Foundry VTT and Roll20. If you're a virtual tabletop user, you may want to switch. That is completely up to you. If you've been using Roll20 and you have a lot invested in it, it may not make any sense to switch over to Foundry VTT. But after using this platform for the last month or so, I can tell you right now, it has a ton of versatility. It has tools that just simply aren't available in Roll20, or if they're available, they're at a lower quality. More than that, it is an entire community of developers that are beginning to build out this platform in a way that Roll20 will never allow you to do, because they just don't open up their source to all these wonderful writers and developers who can create all kinds of cool little tools in there that make life a whole lot better for game masters, in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to show you today what I'm doing in Foundry VTT, specifically using Scabbard. Now, why is this valuable? Well, I have my entire lore, all the lore for my campaign, built out in Scabbard. I like it there because it's easy to get to. There's really easy permissions, making my players power players or assistant GMs or insiders so they can see secrets. And sure, you could do a lot of those things inside of a virtual tabletop. You can do secrets in Foundry VTT, for example. But I find that it's, especially when it comes to connections, it's just irreplaceable. I cannot replace Scabbard. And plus, I've got thousands of hours of work into there. So I'm going to show you a little bit how right now I'm bringing it into Foundry VTT so that I can use Scabbard during my games. All right, and why would I want to do that? Well, using a virtual tabletop has become much more ubiquitous in this crazy time that we've just gone through, or just now finishing, or it's still not quite over yet. But a worldwide pandemic has a way of making people start to look into tools they've never used before, such as being able to play role-playing games virtually across time and space. And I find that a virtual tabletop has been a great option for me and my group, which are 100% located outside of my state here in the United States. In fact, they live thousands of miles away from me, and so it's important that we be able to connect. And Roll20 was a great way to do that. Foundry VTT has been better, but the lore part of my campaign in Scabard RPG Campaign Manager has been a vital part of that. So they can go in and dig into the lore of my campaign as I'm writing it out and developing it, and I can do a lot of my planning and work in there, even though during games I'm primarily living inside a virtual tabletop when we're running our games. So why is it valuable to bring your lore from a campaign manager into a virtual tabletop? Well, I think it's important because I don't want to duplicate my work, right? This is a game I don't want to spend more time than is absolutely necessary prepping for it, and so I don't want to do a lot of double work with articles that I've built out in Scabbard and then rebuild them inside of my virtual tabletop. Just seems like a huge waste of time. So I don't want to do that. I mean, I have a life. And so I find that it's really helpful for me to be able to just quickly link to it. In Roll20, all I could do was throw a link in there, right? So I could throw a link into the chat, or I could create a journal article, and I could throw a link into a journal article, and they could click on it. It would take them outside of the virtual tabletop, and they would go over to Scabbard and be able to read some of that lore, look at a map, or whatever, right? Foundry VTT has a module. Modules are simply these add-ons that are created by developers for Foundry VTT, and they're able to just simply view it right in there. They can even pop it out into a separate tab and keep it available. So if there's a map or a resource or a note or something like that that they would like to keep in front of them, they can quickly do that. Now, sure, I could build these things inside Foundry VTT or Roll20 in a journal article of some sort. But again, I want to go back to, I don't want to do any more work than I have to. This is a game. It's not my life. But I love this part of my life, and I want it to be as high quality as possible. And so I have found a terrific module that allows me to do this, and that's the inline web viewer, which I'm going to show you in just a second. We're actually going to go into Foundry VTT. I'm going to show you some of the tips, some tips about how I use the modules that have already been created in this brand new product to bring Scabard RPG Campaign Manager or any website for that matter into my actual game, so that I use it on the night of we do our games on Friday nights. We use it on the night of my game. Okay. All right. So let's take a look right now at Foundry VTT. I'm going to start with my landing page, and you'll see how I've built some of this out. Okay, here we are in Foundry VTT. Let's get to it. What are you looking at here? Well, let me tell you one thing. Whenever you log in as a game master into Foundry VTT, it's probably not going to look like this. That's the terrific thing about this platform, is you can modify it with all these great add-ons, or modules as they are called, into your campaign or your world, and you can turn them off and on, and you can do all the settings and stuff I was never able to do in Roll20, which is part of what attracted me to this platform. What you're looking at here is the landing page, right? So you can see up here on the top, I've got all my different pages that I've created, or actually just the ones I have active right now. And the landing page is where we start our games. And actually, I've given my players permission to pull this up anytime during the game. So if we're on a battle map, no big deal, they can still go back to the landing page, because there's a lot of really cool, helpful tools here. One of the things that I've done is on this page, you can see these are all interactive. So although they are images in my picture, by the way, that I just created this in a photo program, and I wrote up I wanted to look kind of cool and stuff like that. So I made it myself in a photo program. So that's just a background, all right, on the page, but I have made it interactive so that if they click on one of these, they will see their character sheet, for example, instead of me actually having to pull their token into this page. So you can see I think I have a token sitting up here. There he is. There's Athos right there. So that's his actual token, but I don't have to pull his token into this page. I've created these permanent links that stay here all the time, and that way they can't move it and mess around with the screen or anything. It's actually part of the background, and what you're seeing here is just interactive links, right? If you start to hear some music in the background, that's because I have it set up to play some music when we're on this page. I'm actually going to turn that down right now, so we'll just turn down the ambience, and we'll turn down there we go. So now we won't get distracted by music that is coming from the game, right? So you can set that up to play music whenever they click on something or something like that. All right, so we're going to go back over here. I'm actually going to go to let's take a look at the scene list here. All right, you can see my scenes on the left-hand side here. None of this is really important to what I want to talk to you about today, because I want to show you how I bring in Scabbard. So I'm going to give you some examples. I've got several kinds of links going on here. All right, so I have some that I have pulled in, all right, and some that I have actually just dragged onto the screen. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the ones that's built into the page, and this is using a module called Trigger Happy, where you basically you set up a trigger for whenever you click on something. So let's take a look at the session logs. I love this link, and all I do is click on it, or my players can click on it, and they're going to pull up this Scabbard session log page, right? Fully interactive right here on the screen, so they can click through. Another module allows them to then pop this out if they want to into another screen. So now they're looking at it over here. They can even log in right there, and they can look through the session logs, all available right here on the landing page. I think that's really cool. And again, I make this so they can get back to it anytime they want during the game. If they can't remember the name of an NPC or a location, they can find it there. So that's one link. Very similar to that, I have the lore, which just basically takes them to the home page of the campaign, so they can pull that up. And again, fully interactive. This can all be expanded if they wanted to expand it right here on this page. And they can also, again, pop that out into a separate page to look at it there. So it'll pull it up. Okay. Over here, I have two of my favorite modules, and I do want to show you this. Actually, I'm going to turn this calendar off. By the way, another way I have brought my lore into the campaign is I actually have a calendar. Gary Gygax once wrote that if you don't have a calendar for your campaign, for your games, then you really don't know what's happening. And I think it's vital to have a calendar where things are clicking along. The bad guys are doing their bad guy things in the background, even while my players are exploring some kobold dungeon. The big bad evil guy is planning a takeover of the kingdom, and that's clicking along at a particular pace, so you can pace out your campaign that way. We can talk about that in another video. But here's my actual calendar, which I have in my campaign, so I can do calendar right here, and you'll see I was able to pull up the Sicarian calendar. This is in my Scabbard game, and I've got it all listed right there. I have my special days and things like that. Grand Bazaar begins on the 18th. Well, you can actually work that into Foundry, right? So you can use a module in Foundry, and that module, which I will have linked down below, I think is really cool. I can turn the calendar on and off, but while it's there, they can look at it. I can also control what day it is. So here's the days of the week. Here's the months of the year, the number of days in each month, right? So they can even add in a lunar calendar, check the time, the year, and that sort of thing. So I can go over here and I can actually edit the moons and the seasons. So I have my 4 seasons. You have your holidays. Those are your recurring events. Really, really cool. So you can take all the lore that you've built out into your campaign in Scabbard and pull it right in here. This took a little time to build out, but I think it was worth it, and I think it's really, really cool for the players. One other little feature of this is weather, right? So it's got the weather that's going on in the campaign. That's what you were seeing over here with these moon phases. So that's pulling that in from this module, and you can refresh that, right? So if it's scattered clouds a particular day, and it's gonna tell them how hot that is. I can even change the zone, right? So of 81 degrees and scattered clouds, but mostly torrential rains. Oh, that's really cool. Then we need rain, right? So all I'm going to do, that's a macro down at the bottom, and I'm going to add in some rain to my scene. You can even add sound effects to your rain and stuff like that. These are all just like, just kind of cool atmospheric kind of feelings that I can bring to the game, and my players would feel that. And I didn't have that before in Roll20. Certainly not this easy, and I love those features. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how I bring in some of the Scabbard things into my campaign. All right, so in order to use this, all you need installed is the inline web viewer module. So if I go over to my modules here, and I click Manage Modules, you can see the inline web viewer is one of my modules right there. Make sure you have that installed, and that is going to allow you to pull in really any website. Okay, the benefit of this is no links, right? I'm just going to have it available to myself and to my players. So I'm going to click on the inline right there. It's going to pull up this guy right here. Maybe there's some more configurations to deal with on this, but like I said, I'm just going to use it as is. I'm going to click on that, and all you need here is this URL, okay? Now, what kind of URL do I like to use? This is the zoom map for my campaign. It's huge, by the way. It takes forever to load. That's one of the downsides of this image, but I'm going to use it anyway because I like it, and my brother made it, and that's part of why it is enormous, and I have to host it on a Google Drive in order to get it to work on Scabbard, because Scabbard, You can only handle these monstrous, huge types of maps. Won't do very well with those. This is huge, and so I have it up on a Google Drive. It takes a little bit to load. All that to be said, all I need is the URL of the Zoom map. So what I did was I went in, I found map, so I can actually show you what that looks like. I should probably do that. On here, whenever I go to my main campaign page, I go over here to the map tab. I click on Zoom, and you can see it's taking a little bit to load there because it's pulling it from my Google Drive. And then I'm going to click Zoom, and that's going to give me my Zoom, the Zoom link at the top of the page. So I'm going to Control-C that. You can't see it at this time, but don't worry, I'll show it to you in a second. I'm going to go back into Foundry. I'm going to go to the URL, and I'm going to click Control-V. Right? Now I got to name it, so we'll call this the map of Sicaria. Right? And you can change the size that it displays, but that's not really going to matter to us in this particular video because of how I'm going to use it. I'm going to click check on that. It's going to show me that page. And it's going to pull it up just like it would before in its own viewer, right? So it's taking a little bit to load, but once it's all loaded, now the players can interact with it just like they would on Scabbard. Really, really cool, right? There is a button up here at the top called Export. That is the one we want. We're going to export this as a journal entry on Foundry. I'll change the name, so call this Sicaria right there. And then I'm going to click Save. And boom. Oh, by the way, if I wanted to, I could put this in a folder, so I will. I'll put it in the handouts folder or something like that. I'm just going to leave it in the base folder for now, and then click Save Entry. So now whenever my players go over to their journal, I will be able to show them Sicaria right here. And I can click on that, and it's going to pull it up just like normal. No more linking outside the system. It's all right here in the system, and I can control the permissions for that. And I can make sure that all my players are observers of this note. Now, I could change that, but I don't want them to be able to change it because it can mess it up. I'm just going to, since this is a link, it's just going to take them to that page. Click Save Changes there. I'll click on it again. And then my favorite little feature, of course, is now that they have whatever page you want them to pull up, the leader of the local guard guild or whatever, or the captain of the nearest space station, whatever you're going to put it in there, that's all good. The beauty is they can click pop out, and it's now available in another tab on their web browser. And as long as they want it there, they can have it. Another great way to show images to your players is to let Scabbard do the heavy lifting. What do I mean by that? I get tired of uploading the same file over and over again to multiple systems. My Google Drive, my home computer, my Scabbard account, my virtual tabletop, every one of them needs me to upload the image. I can't imagine, I have at some point we're gonna have this sort of, in the future, we're gonna be talking about litter, like file litter, all these different files that are duplicated all across the internet. We're going to get tired of it. I get tired of it on my own computer, duplicates of files. So here's a way to avoid that. You can upload it one time to Scabbard, and then we're just going to link to that image, right? So that image is sitting out there. We just need to go grab it. And the way we're going to do that is called a hot link. Now, I already have the hot link address memorized for one of the maps in my game. So I'm going to just stick it in here and show you what pulls up. If I go to a regular Google page here and I type in the hot link for this image, it's going to pull it out of Scabbard and pull it right up into my browser. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the image. This is the K1C Exonate Expedition map that was discovered by my players, and it's one that they found. So I like them to to reference it and move back and forth with it. And sometimes I don't want to have them pull up the entire article. I just want to show them this image. So you could do this with any image that you have hosted on Scabbard, right? So that's the only link that I need. So let me show you what that link looks like. Whenever you go into your campaign and you click edit on an article, if you go under edit, if the article allows for a map, you'll have a place for the large image. All right, that's usually where your map is going to be located, the address for your image. But we have to add a little bit to it to make it work properly. So here is what that link looks like. All right, it is scabbard.com, user, your username, image, then hotlink-OK, and then the name of the image. That's it. And now we have a hot link, so we'll call this Yashix. That's the name of the region there. And that's it. We're going to click yes, and look what it's going to do. It's going to pull that up immediately. Notice how quick that was. It's really fast. Pulls it right into the game. I did not have to re-upload this image. It's now available to my players. And again, I can use the same button right there to export it into a journal entry so it's saved forever and ever. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you a nice feature with this. So we'll just call this Yashix. That's the name. Save entry, and click that closed out. Now, we're going to close that view because I don't need it. You'll notice over here in my journal now, I have Yashix as a link in their journal. So that's what that is. That's the journal right there. Okay. And I'm going to take this and I'm just going to drag it onto any map. Okay. I don't like a book. Let's do, oh, I don't know. What's a good one? Oh, I don't know. An oak tree. We're going to do an oak tree and we're going to make it big so they can see it. So I'm going to make the icon size really big there. And I don't have to change the tint. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to update the map note. And now suddenly I have a map note just dragged and dropped from the journal, and the players can now access it. Now it's sitting on their landing page, which I use as sort of home base whenever I'm running a game, because I don't want it to become, as I've said in the past, you don't want your virtual tabletop to become a really, really crappy video game. You just want it to be where you are able to do your battle maps, right? Where your miniatures were and stuff like that. Some people go crazy with it. They have whole dungeons, and it's all about moving your token through. I'm not really as into that. I do a little bit of it, probably too much, but mostly I like to keep it focused on the role playing. I want them to get into their characters and use their minds as the map that they are using to discover the world, right? So this is where my home base is, to keep them focused on their role playing. They can double click this at any time. It's going to pull up that map. That fast, really, really easy. Okay, one of my other favorite modules, and I just wanted to give you a peek. There are better videos than mine about it on the internet, and you can, of course, find out more about it, and that is the loot chest module. And it's not hard to bring up. You can install it, and it's relatively easy to figure out. So loot, you can see this here. It says loot sheet NPC 5e. Loot sheet is actually a way of turning one of your characters, an actor of some sort, into an actual loot sheet or loot chest or a vendor. Like, you can actually use it. Players can interact with it just like it's a store, and they can purchase things off of it, and it takes the gold off of their character sheet. Okay, I'm geeking out a little bit, but I just think that's super, super cool. But right now, all we're using it for is our loot chest. So where they store all of their knowledge of sort of the party loot, right? And I have that here linked with a trigger happy hot link, right? So if they click on this one real quick, and then we'll click on that one. All right, there's the party's loot chest. You can see they can keep track of their money in there, right? It says how much everything weighs, which is important after a while when they have 12,000 pounds they're carrying through a hot jungle, right? They can keep track of everything. It says who's got permissions to it, who can use it, what type of sheet it is, and they can literally drag and drop items off of their character sheet and into the party's loot chest. Say they're going to store it on a mule or something. They could do it that way if they wanted to. One of the other nice features of this is you can use it to link sort of traditional style to Scabbard. And so, for example, I have the ancient sword here, and you can put in your description, and I have that there. But what I did was I created this little just sort of traditional link in the text that allows them to pull out, and it's not going to actually pull up a sword because I just did this for the video. It's actually going to pull them straight to that kind of image that I had before using the hot link image. So if I wanted to show them the picture of some really, really cool sword that I have located in Scabbard, I, again, don't have to re-upload it. I can put it in here, and they can link right to it if it's a sword with tendrils and spikes coming out of it and a green flame on top, and you already have a picture of that. Great. Don't bother doing it again unless you just really want to. You can just stick it in here as a link. It's going to take them right to that page. All right, that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you. Thanks for watching this portion.